Our binomial adventure continues today, folks. So we were doing last week negative and fractional powers on the bracket, but it was all 1 plus something x, wasn't it? Now it's going to be something else other than 1, so what we call a plus bx to the power of something. The little trick that we've got to do is not in the formula booklet. Once we've done the trick, then what we did in the formula booklet last time comes out good. So have a look at this and see if it helps remind you of what we were doing last term, actually. I think in the first half of the last term. Right, before we do some examples, let's just have a little bit of note taking so we know what's going on here. Now, if the number you've got is not 1 here, what you need to do, and this is not in the factor booklet, in the formulae booklet, you need to take the factor of a outside of the bracket. But when you do that, you need to remember that the whole thing is going to be to the power n. So if you take a out of the bracket, that leaves you with 1 plus, we also need to divide this term by a, like that. Oh, hang on. And it is all to the power n. So one thing we could do is then split that so that we do the powers separately and then multiply it, because just as I don't know, 2 squared times 3 squared is 4 times 9, that's 36. 2 times 3 is 6, isn't it? It's the same thing as 6 squared. So that's why that what we're doing now works. So we're going to take the factor of a outside the bracket, but remember that we've got to put that power in there, and then we've got 1 plus b over a x, and that is what you want to note down. So from there, you're going to want to go straight to that. Once you've done that, it's just following the formula booklet, which we will be showing later on anyway, which is this little bit here, and we're doing that, but we're remembering that when we've done all of that, we're going to have to multiply everything in that we've just expanded by a to the power of n. We're going to look at 3 questions, one of which is from your Maths Genie worksheet that you can find attached. So I'm doing one of these with you. The others you'll want to be practicing on your own. So starting off here, we can say that that is the same as 2 plus 3x to the power negative 2, first of all. And then we're going to be thinking that we want to get that 2 outside the bracket, and we're going to put it to the power of negative 2, and we're going to divide the number of x's we've got by that number as well. Take that factor out of it and pop that to the negative 2. So that means I'm now going to binomially expand this, but I'm going to do it inside a bracket with a quarter outside, because 2 to the negative 2 is a quarter, and I'm going to remember to multiply that at the end. So at this point I've got this, and this is telling me 1 plus nx, and n is the power up there. So we start with 1, and then the second term will be plus n is negative 2, so I just put that in a bracket next to what I've got, which is 3 over 2x. And then, to be slightly careful here, it is n, which is negative 2, multiplied by n minus 1, which is negative 3, all over 2 factorial, or 1 times 2, or just 2 if you want. And that's going to be multiplied by x squared. But remember, this whole term here is our x, so I'm going to put that in a bracket like that, and we only want the first 3 terms, so 1, 2, that's the first 3 terms, so we don't need to worry about more. Okay, so I'm going to keep the quarter outside just to make sure I don't overcomplicate things. 2 and 2 cancel, but it is negative, so it'll be negative 3x. Negative times a negative is a positive, but those two cancel out. So that's going to give me plus 3. And that 3 is going to be multiplied by 3 squared is 9 over 2 squared is 4 x squared. And then it carries on. So now I think we can get to our final thing. 1 times a quarter is a quarter. 3 times a quarter is 3/4, so it's negative 3/4 of x. And then 3 times 9 is 27. Divided by 4 would be over 16x squared. And that's that part done. That's A done. And now for part B, the range of values. Now remember, when you're doing 1 plus x to the power of whatever it is, it all works as long as it's tailing down towards something, which means we must be adding less than 1, so that the amount at which the power gets to gets less and less and less and less. So for that reason, this term needs to be less than 1. Now, this term in this case is 3 over 2x. So the magnitude of 3 over 2x, so whether it's positive or negative, doesn't matter. It can't be more than -1 as well as +1. Needs to be, smaller than 1. But we want to know the actual values of x, so we could times by both sides by 2, divide both sides by 3, and then we could say that the magnitude of x needs to be smaller than 2/3. Right, have a look at this baby then. Write it down and give it a go. And then see if you agree with me. Now, this may, by the way, be given to you in the form 1 plus x over 3 plus 2x, all to the power 3. And then you would need to turn it towards that. Now the first thing we're going to do is expand this, and then we'll multiply it by 1 plus x just by using a grid. So we ignore that first of all. This is just telling us that our value of x, for it to work, would have to be below 3 over 2, just like the bit we had at the end of the last question. So we're looking at 3 plus 2x to the power -3. That is going to be equal to, we take a factor of 3 outside the bracket, so we're going to have to do it to that power. That'll leave us with 1 plus 2 divided by the factor we just took out the bracket, 2/3 of x to the power -3. Now 3 to the -3 is 1/27th. So we're going to be doing 1/27th of, and then we're looking at our formula sheet, and we're going to expand the first 4 terms up until we've got x to the power 3. So the first one's always lovely, just 1. Then it's pretty nice as well. It's just going to be n, which is -3, times your x. And in this case, our x is 2/3 of x. So that's okay. Then we're on to n squared. So we're going to have n, which is -3, multiplied by 1 less than that, which is -4, all divided by 2. And then we're going to have the x squared, but it's 2/3 of x, so we're going to need to write 2/3 of x squared. And then on the third one, we're going to have -3 times negative 4. And this is where you need to be really careful, because the formula booklet isn't 100% clear. Is it just the next one? It's actually going to be n minus 2 as well, and it keeps on going till it gets to there. But they could have put one more in there to make it a little bit easier to see, I think. So it'd be times n times negative 5 as well, and this is going to be times 3 factorial, so 3 times 2 times 1, and then that will be our 2/3 of x all cubed. Just about squeeze that in the side there. So that gets us that. Now you're going to need to multiply all those little bits out, so pause the video and make sure you've done that. So you see I've done a fair part of it here, and from there I'm going to do it sort of in one go. So I'm going to have 1/27 take 2/27x, and then the 3 goes into that 3 times into that twice, so that's going to give me 2 4s are 8/327s are 81 x squared. And then on this last one, well, I'm probably going to use my calculator on this one, and that's giving me negative 80/729. Now that all needs to be multiplied by 1 plus x, so we're going to do 1 and x, and then we just need these 4 terms here. In fact, I could just do it here, couldn't I? So 1 and x. Pause the video and have a go, see how you get on. And that should get you to here, and then we've got a bit of sort of parallel peanutting to go on. There's me x's, there's me x squareds, and finally lovely x cubes there. We add those together, which should get you here. So we've got 1/27 minus 1/27 of x. You could have written that as x/27, then 2x squared over 81 and 8x cubed over 729. If that didn't make sense, let me know. So here's our last problem for the day then. Write it down, have a go, see how far you can get. So we're showing that, so it's telling us what the answers are, and we've got to show all the stages that get us there. So 1/that, that means the same thing as saying 1 take x to the power of a half, but because it's underneath that, it's a negative a half. So that's what we start with. Then we just need to use the binomial expansion that we don't need to worry about the a/b business. And so that's going to give us 1, and then it's going to be plus negative a half times negative x. I'm writing it all out just to make sure I don't make a mistake. That's going to be the, so it's 4 terms we need, so that's the first 2 dealt with. Then it's going to be negative a half times 1 less than that. It's going to be negative 3/2 all over 2, and that's going to be multiplied by negative x squared. And then for the x third terms, we're going to have negative a half times negative 3/2. Take another 1 off, is 2 halves, so that's 5/2 all over 3 times 2 times 1. There should be a times 1 there, that doesn't matter. And then we've got negative x cubed. And what happens with these negatives when you're putting powers on them is they go negative, positive, negative, positive. As we're about to see, we get 1. And then we get, actually they don't, they're all going to come out positive, aren't they, as we can see here. Right, well that'll be exciting. A half times that is going to give us a half of x, so that is x/2, that's what we wanted. and then a negative times a positive, and then all divided by that, we can go straight to 3/8 x squared. You might want to just check it in your calculator in case you're in any doubt. So if you were going to do that, that's what that would look like. So that's done it for you, so it's got to 3/8. But as long as you've got the calculation written down that's going to get you there, that's all that matters. So 3 times 2 is 6, but then you've got the 8s on top, haven't you? 8 divided by 6, which all ends up giving us 16th. You can whack it in the calculator just to check if you like, but that's going to give us 5/16 x cubed. And when it comes to stating the range of values of x for which the expansion is valid, it's just going to be, because you've just got the 1x on its own there, it's going to be the magnitude of x is smaller than 1. And that's it for today, folks. So now all you need to do is get to the Maths Genie questions, as I said before, and do all the ones that you haven't done up till now, and let me know if you run into any difficulties.